and means nothing. And it's this giant, large thing that makes no sense. And they turn that into clear objectives. And in a normal business, they'll go from like, we want to refresh the world to make lots of money selling soda very quickly. Immediate relationship between stupid vision and I want to make money. And then they start talking about what are our competitive advantages, what are the things that, what are our capabilities, how do we turn that into a strategy, operational plan, resources, individuals. We need a business manager, we need employees, we need blah, 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 blah. One of the cool things about being a collective project is that our visions don't suck. Our vision isn't refresh the world and then objective sell 1 million bottles of Coca-Cola. Our vision is something interesting and worth doing, and then our objectives actually have some relationship to that, right? So maybe like Ryan Neuf in Liège has the vision of a future without gas-powered delivery in Liège or Belgium, right? That's a cool vision. We all agree that's a cool vision. The objectives would be like, okay, so our objectives for the first 3 years are to have 10% of deliveries be made by not motorized vehicles, right? And so that's not this horrible business plan made by Coca-Cola. However, the way that I think about it is we have to start with the vision, go down to the resource individuals, which effectively becomes like a financial plan. They have to go back. I don't know how many of you guys were for strategy 1, but that was the basic dynamic that I explained, which is that Arthur left. I think I'm going to wait for the translator to come back. He's translating, right? Yeah. So, all good?
Paul, we are turning with Arthur, so I'm translating now.
Oh, you're both switching out. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
Sorry. I thought one was French, one was Spanish. Right. So we start with our vision, which is like make the perfect, amazing world that we all want, and then we go down to resources, individuals. Turns out we probably need to work on the math. Maybe it's not the best economic proposition in the world, and saving the world usually doesn't make you money. So then you have to go back from you have to change the numbers to make it a little more profitable, but then you go back up the plan, changing things again to get back to the vision and make sure that you haven't gone outside of what you were trying to do originally as a political project. So really all these things sort of like build up on each other. A lot of people, when they think about starting a business, if you're a plumber and you're just like, I'm going to be a plumber. I'm not going to build a big company. I'm not going to do any great, but I'm a plumber. I have some clients. I want to make this my profession. Good to go. Well, then you kind of mostly are just going to think about this. You need a van. You need plumbing tools. You need, like, if you want to be super pro, maybe a website. But like you can run your own plumbing thing as an individual, and you can pretty much just, your basic resources can be have your personal vehicle with your tools. Your operational plan is be good at your job and have people like talk about you to their friends. And that's also your strategy. And then you're done. That's really about it. And if you're a good plumber and you have decent prices, you probably will be able to make a business. But that's really different than making a collective enterprise, right? Like if you want to be a single messenger in Latin America, for example, a lot of messengers work like that. Right? They're an independent messenger. They have their clients. They have their bicycle. They do good work. People call them. They gain some clients as time goes on. End of story. They don't need some big plan. But we're trying to create collective enterprises. And in that context, you need a little more than that. Because like in my city, my cooperative is competing in food delivery with multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies. There's no independent food delivery riders anymore that work for restaurants. They all work for these big enterprises. In local commerce, we're competing against multinational businesses like DHL or like NASA. We have the sort of local versions of whatever you have. So in that case, you really need to have a more elaborate set of things. So the basic resources for us are things like cargo bikes, decent clothes. An operational plan could be like, well, if we want to focus on commercial activities, Like maybe we need to have a CRM, a client relations management thing, just like an Excel, like each client, are they in to contact, or are they contacted, or they have been contacted, they like this, they talk to Paul. Like that's a whole system you can have. A strategy would be like, how can we do local commerce in a more effective way than other people, right? So maybe because we're using the CRM and we have good messengers, we can have a really effective commercial capture with not a lot of cost, in terms of get a lot of new clients, and we can work really well. That'd be a strategy about how you can. That's what we want to do to win clients. But if we want to do that, what do we need to do? We need the capabilities. We need to actually have a CRM system. We need to make sure all of our messengers are comfortable and capable of talking to clients in their day-to-day. And that builds up to making you have a competitive advantage. So I don't know if everyone remembers, but in strategy 1, we went over the concept of RIO, which is valuable, rare, imitable, easy to imitate, and are we organized to exploit it? So for example, if you have a really amazing commercial capture team that is valuable, it's relatively rare, it's hard to imitate, you have to train people to do it or whatever, but if you don't have any messengers doing the deliveries, it doesn't matter. You capture a bunch of clients, you can't do any deliveries. So you need to then make the business take advantage of that competitive advantage. I'll go over it more later, but effectively a competitive advantage is what allows you to defend your business over time. So for example, if Eraman has a really good brand as like the local nice cool people, Uber Eats can't compete with us on being the nice local cool people. It's impossible. It'd be very, very difficult for someone else to come in and try to be the local cool food delivery people. So we have a value that's hard for other people to imitate. It's powerful marketing message, gains us clients. It's something that will defend our business long term. And all that gets you to, what are your objectives, right? You know, we want to have this much work for food delivery. Hopefully our competitive advantages let us have that much work. And that is for our vision, which in our case started with the local food delivery people here isn't Uber Eats, it's Globo. And our vision was, fuck Globo, we want them to leave the city. So if our Deliveroo left the city, and Just Eat's pretty much left the city, but Globo's still here. So we have some work to do still. So that's how a strategic plan works. It's these things that build on top of each other. Use an example. We all hate Amazon, but we hate them because they're really good at what they do. Unfortunately, they have a very good strategic plan they've implemented. So we use an example of a good strategic plan run by bad people to make it clear, like, what does this look like in practice? It's an example we're all familiar with. I didn't want to pick something that was like French focused or Spanish focused or German focused. I think we all understand Amazon like as a concept, right? So if you listen to them, if you read their document, they have public documents. Their vision is to be Earth's most customer-centric company where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online. This is the bullshit corporate vision thing that I was saying. But like, generally, it does sort of describe what they're trying to do. They want your entire online purchasing experience to be Amazon. That's their goal. All of your money that you spend on the internet, they want it. The way they transform that into clear objectives, and this part, the first one came from their actual documentation that they publish. The second one is my interpretation of what they say their objectives are. They wouldn't say this because legally it would make problems for them. But they do say it in like interviews and stuff. They want to create and maintain monopoly power over the international logistics industry and the online shopping experience in countries with sufficiently interesting economies of scale, is what that should have ended with. So they're not super interested in, for example, depopulated areas like areas like the rural parts of the United States. Amazon doesn't care. They don't really care. They're interested in like urban centers. And they want to be a monopoly. They want to monopolize the online shopping experience because it allows them to charge more money. Competitive advantages. So Amazon, what they're actually good at is probably not what people think of. The main thing is they have a logistic chain with lower costs than competitors for a similar service. The reason why Amazon got so big was because it had an almost free same day or 48-hour delivery. In the United States, same day delivery. So what they did was they made a cheaper and more effective logistics chain with planes and stuff. And they used that to make everything free for delivery. That meant everybody decided, well, I'm going to buy on Amazon instead of buying somewhere else. The key competitive advantage was the logistics chain. It's really, really, really hard to build a cheap, effective logistics chain that spans the entire planet. It's from China to your house in one day. Like, that's hard to do. And so if they do that well, it means it's really hard for other people to compete with them. 2, a seamless online shopping experience in the marketplace big enough to exert monopoly power over both customers and providers. So by getting everyone to join the platform because of free same-day delivery, it's such a large amount of customers that they were able to charge as much as 50% to the people that put things on the Amazon marketplace. Just half. Because it's a monopoly. Again, you can't really do anything about that. Right? You're a producer. All of your clients have stopped coming into your store and they want to buy it online. The only place they're buying it online is Amazon. What do? You pay 50% to Amazon. End of story. Third thing, marketing capabilities to be the go-to online shopping experience. They did a lot of really good marketing at the beginning. These days, it's like the boring marketing. But 10 years ago, they were doing very nice marketing to communicate all of this, and it was getting people on their platform. Remember, what makes something a competitive advantage is that it is valuable. All these things are valuable. They are rare. They're very rare. They're hard to imitate, and the entity is organized to exploit it. All of these things, if you have a really good logistics chain but nothing to sell, doesn't matter, right? So they did all these things, and that made them able to get more money from people than they would otherwise. So what is that? So as I was saying there, this gets into capabilities, right? The way they were able to make that competitive advantage about the logistics chain was by having 2-day shipping, and then same-day shipping, the cloud computing infrastructure, the ground logistics networks. Those are like tangible goods, right? Like they needed a plane, they needed a cloud computer, right? And the strategy that they used to achieve those capabilities was the internalized complex activities and externalized labor costs. So for example, CoopCycle runs its own servers and stuff, right? And then we also have internally our own messengers. We basically have internally everything. Whereas Amazon, they said, we're going to externalize labor costs. We're going to hire small businesses to be our delivery people, or we're going to hire delivery people directly. But I don't want to own vans. It says Amazon on the van. It doesn't matter. It's not Amazon's van. They made the person put Amazon on their own van. Like, we don't want to worry about it. We just want cheap labor. They just hired a bunch of cheap labor. But everything complex, everything that was really very important to this working, like the cloud computing, they did it internally. It's really weird that Amazon is basically a supermarket, right? So like a shopping mall. And for some reason, they decided to also do cloud computing. And now AWS is like the 3rd biggest tech company if it was by itself. It's insane, right? It's not like the shopping mall near my house didn't build its own cloud servers. It hired someone else to do it. So the strategy they had was they internalized everything that was super, super hard to do, and they externalized everything that was simple to do, which is the opposite of some other businesses. So that operational plan, it turned into like, we're going to offer 2-day and same-day delivery by having all these other things, the cloud computing, the ground logistics, with 0-day contracts and pay per delivery. And very specifically, they found regional logistics hubs in low-cost labor areas. So in the United States, which is where I know best, they didn't use existing transportation hubs. They went to the middle of nowhere and a small town and built a new logistics hub. It was a huge investment in money, but allowed them to have a really cheap, long-term transportation network because they were the only employer in this small town. That required hiring engineers, hiring managers, a bunch of employees, a bunch of not employees, independent contractors, warehouses, planes, right? So we're getting down now to the really concrete, detailed stuff. Can we see how these things sort of layer on each other? Does this make sense? For example, if cloud computing is a really key part of you having an effective logistics chain, then you need to have like a bunch of programmers that are really good at software and like backend and servers. If you don't get those engineers and software backend people, you can't do the entire plan. Full stop. Don't do it. Similarly for us, right? Like if you're going to do a plan and it has an important aspect about marketing because you're B2C and you do food delivery, if you need to hire someone who's good at marketing, or you shouldn't do that plan. It all builds on each other. All right, so case studies. I tried here to not use like, so in the first strategy one, we talked about some general, like what was up with Chicago and Hamburg, what was up with these other people. It was like very down to earth, what's up with your local bike cooperative examples. Here I'm going to use not that. Here I'm going to use pretty large examples because the idea is to expand your idea of what is possible. And I'm probably going to actually improv one later as well. So, the Enlightened Kitchen. We all know dark kitchens, right? So we came up with the concept in guest days of the Enlightened Kitchen, which we actually kind of started about 3 months ago. Where does it start? Starts in the very boring place all of us hate, just the market analysis. So if we're talking about the food industry, Porter's 5 Forces. Do people remember what Porter's 5 Forces were? No, right? No, all good. No problem. So Porter's 5 Forces are your business. You have suppliers, buyers, possible substitutions, possible new entrants. And if those things are very active or not very active, it makes it harder for you or easier for you to make money in an industry. The easiest example of this is logistics. We are in a very high rivalry business. Why is that? Why is it so bad of an industry? It's because if you want to work in last mile, there are like 4 last mile providers. Like in my city, it's Seud, it's DPD, so DPD, DHL, Nasex, GLS. Pretty much that's it. They have like 80% of the market. You get to work with one of the 4. Good luck. I hope they treat you well. On the other hand, who are you competing with? Because where I live, there's not a lot of labor inspections. You're competing with anyone who owns a vehicle. So anyone who owns a vehicle with or without papers to work legally, you're competing with those people. And they're willing to work for whatever. So you've got a lot of competition and you've got 4 providers. You're screwed. Like, it's a horrible situation. How are you going to survive? Right? And that's why it's so hard. It's also why it's so easy to enter, right? There's low barriers to entry. Anyone with a vehicle can enter. So anyone who's got a vehicle like us is like, hey, yeah, let's do some deliveries. It's awesome. It's easy to start, but hard to make money. There's basically 2 main types of sectors. One is like logistics, easy to enter, hard to make money, or hard to enter, easy to make money. If you're a lawyer, your clients or who's giving you money, your provider, like you have a bunch of people who need legal help. People buy houses, people get divorced, people get married, people sue each other because they're mad. There's a million of them. On the other hand, you have to be certified by the state to be a lawyer, and there's like 5 of you. So not a lot of competition. So it's easy to make a bunch of money. That's why. Anyways, in the restaurant industry, supplier power. So here we're talking about like, I make hamburgers, I need bread, I need hamburger meat, I need cheese. Those suppliers have very little power. There's a lot of people that make bread. There's a lot of like, yeah, some chains are bigger than others, but like generally you can kind of pick from a lot of different suppliers. Some notable exceptions, one there would be physical space. There's usually a lack of physical space for restaurants in cities. So other than specifically that, most of your suppliers don't have a lot of power that they can use over you. Buyer power, also very low. Got a million hungry people everywhere, all the time. They're very hungry. Threat of substitution, that is high. There's a million you can go to a different restaurant. You can go home and make yourself some food. You can buy prepackaged food at the supermarket. You can buy weird protein shakes that you put in water because apparently the newest fad is to not eat things, but to ingest them. I don't know. So there's a lot of substitutions, right? Any one customer can easily say, well, I don't want your service. I don't want your hamburgers. I'm going to go eat something else. Set of new entrants, medium. There's like usually every year there's some new restaurants, some close, but it's not like crazy. In my city, like it's not like there's a new restaurant every day. What does this mean? It means that we have a medium, if you take sort of the average of these things, you have a medium rivalry, medium amount of rivalry. It means that I can probably start if I'm able to start a business, it's not super tense. Pest analysis is political, economic, social, and technological. So there's the things you should think about when you're starting a business, the context you're in, right? So politically, we might have a lot of support from local institutions, but it's not necessarily very helpful. Right? This happens a lot with us. Everyone loves sustainable delivery, but like they don't have any deliveries for us. So what are you gonna do? Give me a grant or something? No, I don't like. Okay, concretely, what are you gonna help me with politically? There's not a lot that they usually want to do. Economically, I put this a year ago. Hopefully, we're going to experience an economic upturn, which I don't know. I don't think that happened. So, but you could say economically in the next couple of years, do you think people have more disposable income or not? Because food is something you buy if you have extra money at a restaurant. If you have no extra money, you go to the supermarket, you make it yourself. Social, more and more digitalization of purchases, interest in responsible consumerism. So it's really important. Like if you're in Nantes, for example, social, like why is this important? You want to start a restaurant in Nantes. You probably don't want to start like another like a high-end French restaurant the way that American thinks about French restaurants. Like that'd be stupid. Like maybe you want to go with like, there's more interest in vegetarian, vegan options these days. Like what socially makes sense for me to start doing. Technologically, this has to do with the like food delivery sector in general, but a lot of e-bikes and scooters, right? That's important for us because it makes other people easier to enter the sector. You have to buy a 3,000 euro car to be as fast as me on a bicycle. You have to buy a 400 euro scooter. SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So in our world with our cooperatives and things, we have a very interested public. We have a highly motivated team internally. We have experience in the restaurant sector, and we have an existing base of business. Like we have some stuff we're already doing. Weaknesses, we don't have a lot of financing, and a lot of our businesses don't have a lot of experience in the administrative side. It's maybe 3 or 4 people who run their own stuff, but don't have experience like, running many people. And all of the bookkeeping that requires. Opportunities, there's a large market share to capture. The work fits with our values, easy to start. So talking about my cooperative starting a restaurant, there's a large market of food stuff to do. The work fits with our values. We believe in also like having cooperative values inside of the restaurant industry. It's relatively easy to start because we have contacts, we know stuff, we know marketing. Threats, it's a competitive sector. It requires serious follow through. You have to, it's not something you pop up and then goes away. And also like nothing's been showing up right now, but new platforms could be appearing tomorrow, like food delivery platforms. For a while, there was a new one every 6 months. So based on that stuff, the theory was that it makes sense for us to try to do something in the restaurant business. And the global vision we put in there was to help communities and individuals without many opportunities build successful businesses based on social and cooperative values in hospitality while creating close and effective relationships that provide good work for the cooperative. So if we can help restaurants that are local and cool but it's kind of a disaster have successful businesses, then that will also create good relationships for us to have an effective cooperative. Sort of like the vision, right? Like restaurants are a disaster. That makes everything very tense. Like if we can help them make their business better, then they'll probably stay with us. We can make good relationships. We can do more food delivery. The clear objective in that case, like, okay, we want to have restaurant partners that can effectively do 50 plus orders a night with their kitchens and with collaborative marketing without creating problems for the in-house customers and not wasting a bunch of courier time waiting for pickups. Why do we want this? Because we have a bunch of small restaurants that have a lot of people eating in, and all the deliveries, they are kind of annoying and they make problems for the way their ticket system works. And so we end up having our couriers waiting, right? It's like, no, what we want is high volume. We want someone can do like 50 deliveries a night and it's going to work well. And when the ticket says it should be there at 7:20, it's more or less ready at 7:20. So how do we do this? Our objective is to create an exclusively pickup and delivery space with a loaned kitchen, working with people from our community and have a lack of opportunities and training. And hopefully it will turn into a restaurant over time. So specifically what we're proposing here is we want to make a new restaurant. We want to make a pop-up restaurant that can work very closely with the cooperative and do delivery and pickup orders. And if it and experiment with a new menu and new options. And if that goes well, then it could maybe become a restaurant in the future that's independent from our own cooperative. Competitive advantages that we want to have. The ability to do this well, we would have to have the ability to effectively be like business consultants. Like we have to help small projects, small pop-up things, people have ideas, help them be able to make that sort of a reality. It's valuable, it's rare, it's kind of hard to imitate, but there are a lot of like consultant things out there, and every day there's more tutorials on YouTube about like how to start your own little restaurant. And we're probably not right now organized to exploit it, though we do have consulting experience as a cooperative. So like it's a sort of a neutral face. Ability to manage increased demand by quickly expanding the courier team. We have a human resources strategy and plan that if we are funding that, we are able to quickly expand the team in a way that doesn't affect service. That's valuable, it's rare, it's hard to imitate, and we're organized to exploit it because we have the bicycles, we have the work, we have all these things ready. We increase demand, we would be able to handle it. Ability to manage a stressful and close relationship at the beginning. This is actually a big one. Whoever is going to be doing that experimental thing will require a lot of like personal relationship to make sure that things go well in an exciting and stressful beginning. And we do have a lot of people who have a lot of experience working in collaborative enterprises and managing other people. And a lot of these types of collaborative projects die just because people get mad at each other and it doesn't work. And we're pretty good at managing those types of situations. The reason we had this idea was because we kind of did it by accident already. We did it with a restaurant, but it's just like a normal restaurant. They're not like a cooperative or anything. We thought, well, and so we saw that tension happen with them. We saw all these lessons, like we've done it before, so we'd be good at doing it again, but here in a collaborative context. So what would you have to do? Business consult. How do we build those capacities or make sure that we have them ready to go? So the way I wrote this plan, which isn't really how we've ended up doing it in practice, but we have a wide network of like cooperative consultancy stuff in Basque Country. Like, well, I have I have a relationship with those people. We can work with them to do a lot of consulting for different stuff. We need this type of thing. We'll talk to these people. This other thing, we talk to these other people. Marketing consultancy. We have a pretty effective marketing group at Eraman if we want to use it well, and there's money to pay for hours. So we could do that internally. Managing demand. We also have a pretty high, like I said, pretty good internal HR department. And this is less so now, but about a year ago, we definitely had a lot of members who could just who weren't working every weekend, who could sign up to do more weekends if we wanted them to. And then managing that relationship was, hello, Paul, again. So, and then how do we turn that into like an actual strategy, right? So like for the business consultancy, like we could do that in multiple ways. We could either hire someone outside to do it for us. We could do it entirely internally. Like what's the way we want to go about it? And for the sake of this exercise, we were talking about doing was, since I have the relationship with a bunch of those cooperative business people, like I could act as the connection point. But we take advantage of existing programs that are financed by the government or they're free for some other reason, and take advantage of those resources for the restaurant to get business consultancy without Eraman or me having to put in a lot of work. For the marketing consultancy, the idea was to do some like a complex, big like launching campaign with the Eraman team, but then train the people in the pop-up restaurant to be able to do daily posts, make some good photos, and sort of maintain stuff over time by themselves. Not that Eraman would long-term be constantly doing all the marketing. Managing the demand, just using the existing HR process, but a higher volume of hiring more people, and temporarily reapply the group guardia concept. We did a thing when we have higher demand happening in the past, where we would do like on Saturday night, we're all going to like clean a bunch of members that don't always have weekend shifts. We're going to clean the space. Like we needed to have a time to clean the shop. Let's clean the shop during dinner time. And if there's a bunch of extra demand, but we have people there that can go out and do extra work. And then managing the relationship, like dedicating specific hours to someone to meet regularly with those people and the restaurant and make sure that the relationship is good. Not wait until there's a crisis, but like meet twice a week and make sure things are going okay. So it went into a bit more detail. This is what the the HR plan looks like, which I think is probably the most important one. It's a very concrete example. It's something we've actually used in the past. It's been very, very useful. So like we had a time with that first restaurant that did pickup and delivery only, where we were increasing by 15 orders every week, 15 orders per day. So like week 1, Friday, we did 50 deliveries. The next week, Friday would have 65 deliveries. The next week would have 80 deliveries. The next week we would have 95 deliveries. And so we just needed people. So we had a 6-part HR funnel that went from the first 4 days to the first 4 to 8 months. The first 4 days is having a meeting where you explain the conditions and function of the cooperative and test their capabilities. That just means take them on a bicycle, see how they're doing, let them do some deliveries, see if they can handle it. The objective is to see how they respond. The method is, well, you have first the meeting, explain the labor conditions, and then 2 to 3 hour bike trainings with the member. And after that training of 2 to 3 hours on the street, have a check-in meeting to see how they feel about it, and ask them honestly if they see themselves in this job, or if it seems like it's really hard. Requirement to like pass this phase is, can they effectively do delivery? That's the whole like minimum standard. You need to be able to do the job. Just pick up food, deliver the food, pick up food, deliver the food. What we would love is if they're also excited about it, but they don't have to be. Second time frame is the first weekend that they're on their own. And so then the objective here is to test the individual can work autonomously. So they're not going with someone, they're on their own. They do 1 weekend of shifts only when we have someone doing dispatch on the computer, because if they're not doing well, we need to be aware of it very fast. And the dispatcher is specifically evaluating how well they do during that weekend, and if they're checking up, if they're following instructions, if they're going fast. The requirement is pretty basic as well, like, do you arrive on time? Did you deliver things? Are you communicating on the walkie-talkie? And the wish is, of course, they are a complete badass. If they pass that, the next one is the review phase, which is just the first month. And that's to clarify work norms. So a lot of people, we realized the first weekend or two, they were really excited, but by the weekend 3 or 4, they were not as excited anymore. So this is the phase where we want to make sure that they're comfortable and make sure they know what's going on. So at the end of the month, we were having monthly work trainings. So we would sit down for 2 hours with everyone who was new in the last month or two We would go over all the labor norms. This is how your paycheck works. This is how to understand all the numbers in your paycheck. What happens if you have an accident? This is the protocol. You remember we told you? You forgot. Okay, let's go over the protocol again. You have to go to the hospital if you get hit by a car or whatever. We went over like, what are your rights as a worker? What are your obligations as a worker? Just the whole thing, right? We required that they have to attend it, and we hoped they'd come with interesting questions. And we make sure that they are aware of all of those norms. From months 1 to 3, this is actually so that they'd finished their probation period after 1 month, like on a legal sense, and now they were full contracted with a temporary contract. We specifically wanted to test how individuals respond to requests for improvement. Why is this important? We're trying to work collectively and collaboratively in a stressful environment. This person in the future will be in an assembly meeting, maybe, as a member. I want to know that they're capable of taking criticism from others and responding positively. If not, I'm not sure I want them to stick around. So we had a meeting with people somewhere between months 2 and 3, where even if they were doing everything really well, we found something intentionally to tell them to improve on. This wasn't done very well. We would like you to improve in this way. And most important was the way that they responded. Did they get mad, or they were like, okay, that's decent feedback, like I will try to do better, and then make steps to be better in that thing that we asked them about. Didn't really care if they immediately got better or if they got better slowly or whatever, but the ability to take the criticism and the ability to take steps to improve it was what we were looking for. 3 to 5 months, we started, for us, the whole goal here was to get people in the door quickly, make sure we have enough riders on the street, but then we want members of the cooperative that are fully part of the project, right? So what would happen is here, maybe we would have in 1 month, 5-10 people do training, and 2 or 3 would drop out before the weekend. So we have 7 people during the weekend. Then 1 person drops out after 1 weekend, and so now we have 6 people in the 1 month window. After 1 month, 2 more people. Well, one of them found a new job. The other one isn't going fast enough. Okay, whatever. So we're filtering out people as time goes on, right? So now we start getting more interesting, which is we want to know, are they interested in the project more than just as a job where you just make some money and go home. So we have individual, more casual meetings, like with a beer or a coffee. And we explain more about what the project is, what its values are, why we're here, what it's about, and sort of show them the different things we're doing. Show them that we do marketing, and if you're interested in marketing, maybe you could help out there. Show them that we do HR, if you're interested, you could help out there. Show them all the different things we do, more than just food delivery. We also do local commerce. We also do the DHL stuff, and see if they get interested in anything, and maybe want to get involved. 4 to 8 months, we want to know not only the interested. This is the last filter. Is we needed. Now it's a little bit less like this, but a year or 2 ago, we really needed people that were self-starters. We were really busy all the time. We couldn't mentor everybody 110%. We needed people with their own initiative. So we explicitly said to people, we are looking for you to tell us what is something you want to do at Eraman. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You need to tell me. And we would wait for them to say something. And if they didn't say anything, then when their contract ended, we'd be like, all right, your contract ended. Cheers. Good luck with life. And other people, if they actively said, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, whatever, then those people we kept on more long-term. And we had some decent workers who didn't find interest in the project more than just as a weekend job, and they left and they created space for new people that ended up becoming full members of the cooperative. So this is our response to HR. It's pretty intense. It's very, very intense. And it was at a time when we were growing so fast that we could have lots and lots of people entering the cooperative, and we're no longer in that situation right now. But it's an example of how it's a very specific plan. Like, there's no questions here. This is a path. First 4 days, what are we doing? We want to accomplish this. We're going to do it this way, and then this is what we need. And if they don't do this, they're gone. Same thing here. We're trying to accomplish this. We're doing it this way. This is what we need to have happen. And we do that with the other things as well. Like it's a little bit less nicely laid out, but the marketing consultancy plan, like very specifically, like we are trying to achieve specific goals in specific timeframes. Like we want to first help get the branding of the project existing and coherent, and we want to train them in how to do that. And that has a time frame, and we do it in this way. And then you make a list of resources and people. It all turns out into money. It's either hours of people or it's stuff you need to buy, right? That's how you have a plan. Total estimated cost here was 15 grand plus physical space like rent and stuff. And since we could find financing in the Basque Country, it doesn't need to be recouped later by the cooperative itself. Does this make sense? Kind of. So it's like a pretty systemized step-by-step plan. Cool. Second example was, this was, I don't think this ever actually happened, but there was an idea in Corbo at the beginning to do more of a catering service, not so much like food delivery, B2C, Friday evenings type stuff, but like lunchtime business meetings, hotels type thing, right? And so go through a little bit fast this time. Supplier power, medium, because here you are as a platform supplying food from fancy restaurants. There's a more limited number of fancy restaurants, so they have a little bit more power. Buyer power, very low. Similar, there's a lot of people that have business lunches, right? Threat of substitution, medium to high. There's like a lot of people that try to do catering, so you have some competition there. And the threat of new entrants. As a platform, there was no one doing catering, lunchtime catering at the time, so it was a high threat that there would be someone else who'd come in and do it as well. Especially in France, it's a thing that exists. PES, well, politically, Bayona is friendly to the local bike people, so that's nice, but again, like, what are they going to do? Economically, what's the economic analysis? Bayona has rich people, so that's good. If you want fancy catering, you need some rich people. Social, what I was told was they're not the nicest people, but they're into sustainable and local values. So they're kind of rich assholes, but they want sustainable and local, so that's good. Technological, when I asked them about technological analysis, they said robot dogs, ? But basically, like, there's not probably a lot of technological innovation happening in the catering sector. That since they already have the CoopCycle, their local commerce clients will see their food service. Like, that's nice, sort of technological part, but it's not that important for them. Strengths, so they already know how to deliver stuff. They know their city well. They have a lot of contacts in the city center, good awareness, diverse set of knowledge and experience, and a wide network of contacts in bike delivery. Weaknesses, nobody wants to work in Basque Country, sad face, because it's very expensive to move there and it's very rainy. Not everyone wants to work in Basque Country, apparently. Also, local people don't give a shit about bikes. So they had a problem getting people who are bike messengers to move to Bayona, and nobody locally wanted to be a bike messenger. Opportunities, rich people, gap in the food delivery market on the higher end. Like, Bayona is a very wealthy city, but it has Uber Eats and it's like McDonald's. There's not a lot of good offers on it because all the rich restaurants don't want to participate. Threats, new entrants, ? So the global vision was to make a platform with people who share our values and vision, not necessarily high-end food, but with local products, people who care about their workers. We want to be happy to work every day. Very vision. Objectives, to have a high-end food delivery platform that works in the Bayona, Anglet, Biarritz area. Minimum of 15 restaurants per area, providing work for 5 couriers per area, last-minute ordering. Right. So global vision, well, what does this actually look like practically? Competitive advantages. what competitive advantages do they need to make this work? What competitive advantages do they want to build to be able to do this? They need good restaurant business connections. If you're working with the fancy places, you need good relationships with them. So that is something that's valuable, it's rare, it's immutable, but it's hard to be organized to exploit well. Have good relationships with local government and Basque people, etc. Just like generally good social vibes in the city. And having marketing based on a local high quality service and not having cars. All those things are very much competitive advantages. Some of them they had already, some of them they were going to have to build up. So how to build those capacities? Corbo speaks Basque, so they need people who, if you want to be local in Bayona and everything, you need at least someone on the team who speaks Basque. Maybe just for the marketing, but at least one would be good. They would need to launch a large marketing campaign. Have consistent high quality marketing. Like if you're doing catering, part of the problem is it's not very frequent necessarily. Like each business might have like 1 or 2 orders a month. So you need to have like low level marketing to keep yourself in people's heads, right? Like maybe it's you leave something on their desk for them with a QR code or whatever, but like it's not quite the same as Friday night hamburger deliveries. You need a stable and professional courier team because there's if it's higher quality food, more expensive food going to businesses, you need to have a certain level of professionalism. You definitely just need generally marketing capabilities. Like these are the things that we need to have and able to do in order to do this. So what is our strategy? How are we going to get to speak Basque? How are we going to get to have a good marketing campaign? How are we going to get good stable professional courier team? We're going to have one strong communication person that we already have, and we're going to bring people on a temporary basis to do comms. So the plan here was we have one person who's worked in marketing a lot before and has a lot of contacts. So if we need someone to design something quickly, they can call up someone they know, pay them $50. They'll just make the thing. So import high quality couriers due to location. So it does have a lot of beaches and stuff. People think of it as rainy, but if you can help people find housing, it can be a very nice place to live as well. So the idea was instead of training people locally to turn into bike messengers, try to import messengers from other places in France. And then partner with local marketing business that can do the logistical side of the marketing to complement the communications capabilities of Corbo. So they said that like we're really good at the communication stuff. So like what's the brand? What's the message? What are we trying to communicate? But we don't want to be the ones making all of the Instagram posts, all of the blog, but whatever the things are, it's not something we have time to do or we're really very good at. So we want to get a local marketing business and hire them to long-term to help out. Operational plan, like what does this look like? So set up the infrastructure for people who are brought in on a temporary basis to facilitate their work, right? That means using having a brand book with guidelines and a task management system like Asana, Odoo, Notion, any of those types of things. Sending out personal messages to get people to be involved from personal contacts because the people involved in Corvo had a lot of personal contacts. Set up meetings with local marketing businesses so long-term there's a partner for it, and set a specific date for outreach with the restaurants that coincides with the launching of a custom app. Here's a sample campaign timeline. They were going to use generally like what does this look like in the number of weeks, planning, pre-launch setup, launch, mid-campaign evaluation, wrapping up, reporting, and then engagement long-term with the people that you captured. Human resources, I just stole the same thing because they didn't have something as detailed. And a commercial plan. Things were left a little more ambiguous. It was still in more of a theoretical setting, this stuff. At the end of the day, what's that going to look like is they're going to need that one main person for both marketing and for commercial contacts with help from other people. So specifically for the launch phase, not for the long-term phase with the marketing partner. Like this is the person you would need. This is how many weeks they're working on this, the total of hours, what this cost, what does that look like? This is the upfront money that you want to invest in this project. So I went a little faster, but same idea. And the last example, honestly, is kind of boring. It's just like, how do we start a last mile cooperative in France in a medium-sized city? Which at that point was a lot of the people we were talking to. But since a lot of people, I don't think I need to like repeat this a bunch, so I'm going to kind of flip through that. So my first question is, that was a lot of information, really fast. And I want to take a minute for people to talk about what their general plans and strategies are. So I'm going to shift quickly to group discussion. I know some people here are starting their cooperatives for the first time. Hi. Some people have existing cooperatives. What are the strategies and plans that you have currently? And after seeing the sort of more systemic process, what do you think maybe you need to be thinking about, or new things, or like, what do you think about your own plans after having talked about this a little bit? So I'm going to leave the floor open, and as usual, if no one talks in a minute, I'm just going to call on random people. Who wants to talk about their plan? Good. Helen?
Sorry, I didn't get my name. Can you hear me properly? Cool. So yeah, in our collective, I'm more or less a passive member, but I've seen a bit of the progress, and I think the strategy for us has worked really well in the beginning to have this like skill sharing, so that everybody in the collective was basically able to do all the tasks that were necessary. And right now, what I thought about when you were speaking was that the collective is growing and we're having more orders, which is great, of course, but it also means that we're not on the same skill level anymore, all of us. So we need to find a new strategy to, I don't know, either specialize or to find a new way of skill sharing. Yeah.
That is a great transition to the next section. But I want to let other people talk about their plans, but we'll come back to that for sure. Who else? Go for it.
Yes, for us, like it's a new cooperative, so like the strategic plan is to play with one of our aspect is we have a big network in the town. So the first people that we are connecting with are like very already bike friendly commerces. So it's local commerces that we know, and that's the first like ambassador of us. And then we try to expand a little bit to more how to say this day-to-day and more stable clients. So we will contact some bigger clients like Multipharma, which is how to say pharmacy in French. I don't know if it's in English. Medical supplies to not hospital, but to elderly people home or to medical houses. And it's quite bigger, but it's still simple because it's normal deliveries with not very specific needs for these kind of deliveries, but with a bigger volume. So that's the one we want to try to go, and it's also a cooperative. So maybe we can have these aspects and like skip from the local commerces, because local commerces is very time consuming and it's very specific and they don't have that much money for deliveries. So we are also for the catering, we do this. The first month was great without connecting anybody. One local commerces went with two deliveries a day and very high-end deliveries, so quite with a good pay at the end of the month. But this month, it was holidays. It was a lot of weeks without any deliveries. So it's like for 1 month full, 1 month empty. Quite complicated to deal at the end. So we need to find some clients to fulfill the in-between catering services. That's it.
Totally. Who else? Leo, are you trying to talk? I can't hear you. Can other people hear Leo? No, you're muted again. And he's gone. Guessing he's gonna come back. Just wait a second.
Is it better?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yes. So, be fast plans for the time being. So right now, our revenues are split between local commerce and food tech. Food tech, it's nearly half and half. It may vary from weeks to weeks, but it's mostly half and half. And our plan right now is to fill more evenly our timetables, because we have like really busy evenings and from Thursday to Saturday, and really calm afternoons. So we started a partnership with a bakery, which has we have with them a delivery a day for bread. So it's a first step toward this timetable filling, and we are looking for more local commerce for the afternoon mostly. So this is our strategy for now. We are not we are still trying to find new clients in food tech, but not at like a steady pace. We are not like, we have no like objective like, okay, we want 3 new restaurants before 2025. It's not our goal. We try to maintain the relationship we have with our current restaurants, but we made a change. We wanted to have a more effective B2C communication. So we are working on our Instagram and social network at large. So this is like the strategy, like don't try to grow too fast on the food tech side, but have like so like recurring clients.
Loyalty.
Yeah. Build loyalty on the food tech side, and build new clients for like the rest of the time of the day, to have like something more even on a week time. This is the strategy for now.
Anyone else want to talk about their strategies, their plans, their strategic visions? Going once. Going twice. All right, we can leave it there. 3 people's not a bad number. So the next section goes pretty clearly to what Helen was talking about, which is a lot of times at the beginning, the plan is like, well, we're 3 people, we're 5 people. I'm good at marketing. You're good at something else. Let's just all do what we have to do. And then we'll have a lot of phone calls, a lot of WhatsApp messages, and a lot of meetings over beers, and we'll like make it happen. And that is a good plan when you are a small group of people with a lot of confidence in the other people, and when you're all very motivated and have free time. It's the beginning of a project. It's not quite as useful of a plan when you're maybe 10, 15, 20 people, or when you've now been doing it for 3 years and things like that. So we wanted to talk about that as like where to go in the future, how to build this up as time goes on. And the fact is that bike delivery by itself isn't enough. Right? When you're 2 people only doing local commerce, if you guys have 2 bikes and you give good service like the plumber, then that's fine. But if you're trying to do something more than that, especially things like food delivery or local commerce at a high level, then you need to, it's really about the organization of the work. It's important. For example, customer service gets very, very important. You know, one person is dispatching on Monday, someone else is dispatching on Tuesday, and the way that you deal with a client on Monday needs to be the same way that you deal with the client on Tuesday. Or you have a lot of problems, dispatchers yelling at each other, problems, losing money, blah, blah, blah. So the goal here, if you're trying to grow beyond a small team, is having one super awesome member, or maybe of all 5 of you are super awesome members is great, but that's not the goal. That's the sort of capitalist mentality, right? I'm going to work harder. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be more capable, and I'm going to make more money, right? What we want is having capabilities as a cooperative, right? We don't want Paul to be good at commercial capture. We want Eraman to be good at commercial capture. We don't want Leo to be good at marketing. We want Be Fast to be good at marketing. So what does that mean? It's called decentralized capability. So what doesn't work is when everyone just does whatever they want. As someone who has been involved in certain political groups in the past, a lot of people think of the idea of structure or the idea of organization as hierarchy. It doesn't have to be. It often is, but it doesn't have to be. You can organize things well and horizontally if you want, and that's the plan. The sort of everyone does whatever they want and we have lots of hangout meetings only works for a limited time at the beginning, and even then sometimes doesn't work. So it is when you're able to carry out a complex activity independently of any one person in a determined time frame. So like we want to do a complicated and hard marketing campaign in the next 3 months, and it's not just because Juan is really good at it. We have a model that for us worked pretty well at a certain level when we were doing our most complex activities and we had the highest number of sort of motivated active members. We were using, I forget what we called this, but we created 3-person working groups. And we had found in the past that often there had been some tension between different profiles of people. And we ended up sort of naming those people from the dev world, from working with CoopCycle, the programmers. We ended up calling them front end and back end. Front end is the people that work with the users and it's the interface, and the back end is like the servers. So one example is marketing, right? You need to go talk to the restaurant and take photos and be nice and make everything pretty. That's a very social role. You have to go and interact with people. And then someone else has to edit the video. You need someone to edit the video, to make the copy, to sort of organize all that stuff on their computer late at night. And usually you don't have one person who likes to do both of those things. And oftentimes, if you have one of each, they don't necessarily get along. Very different profiles of people that sometimes don't always know how to work together the best. And that's why there's a role of coordination. So a coordinator manages an organizational system. So I mentioned a CRM, a client relations management, before. That's an organizational system. Having a Google Drive with all of the marketing videos in it, but it's in one place and we know where it is and it's organized. That's an organizational system. Make sure timelines are being respected. So just like, as a group, you make a timeline and a plan, and then they sort of remind people about how that timeline is going and how it's working. Facilitates operations, facilitates meetings. The front end, in whatever it is, does work associated with interacting with other people, and it requires social skills and outgoing personality. And back end does work associated with structural stuff afterwards. So marketing, like I said, the front end goes to a client, suggests making a video, takes the video, understands the local context, thinks of ideas for the video to be like. Back end maybe edits the videos, schedules the posts to automatically pop up in social media over time. And the coordinator makes sure that people, like, we're gonna have a meeting. We agreed, we're gonna have a meeting on Friday at 9 a.m. And then someone will show up and like, hey, why weren't you there? Whatever. Make sure that organizational system is being respected, that people are actually putting everything in the drive. It's not just like on your personal hard drive in your house or whatever. The way we were doing that was with Odoo. We had weekly coordination meetings and monthly brainstormings. A standardized system of weekly posts and engagements, and we had a 3-month timeline for our planning. So every 3 months, the cooperative would generally review what had happened, say how well the cooperative thought the marketing had gone, and establish new objectives for the next 3 months. And then to execute that, there'd be weekly coordination meetings, the monthly brainstorming about fun, cool marketing things to do, and the standardized posts. Then we had that for other stuff. We were doing that with marketing, with commercial capture, and with fiscal for a time. So for commercial capture, it looked a lot like marketing, right? There's one person or multiple people who were going out and talking to new possible clients. And then there's a person who was like making the flyer that you give out to the commercial people, who managed the pricing rules inside of CoopCycle, who created new profiles or like did the emails back and forth. And there's someone who coordinated between those two groups of people. For fiscal stuff, right, there was one person who was really comfortable doing all of the cash flow tables, doing all of the invoices, doing all of that stuff, but they really didn't want to talk to people who hadn't paid invoices. So we had someone else who would go to some client, be like, you didn't pay your invoices for the last 3 months. Like, what? Come on, we're gonna stop working with you. Can you just pay us the invoice now, please? Thank you, or whatever. What was important was that the coordinators were different for each group, and that they were rotating positions, and that, so for example, here, person C, the coordinator of commercial capture, was also the back-end person for marketing, for example, right? It's not just everyone. Now we have this clear structure where there's like coordinators and workers. It was rotating, and it's about people can have different roles in different time periods. So yeah, monthly evaluation of the dynamics and roles and effectiveness, regular opportunity to rotate positions, and no one could coordinate more than one department at a time. And everything was responsible back to the monthly General Assembly. The reality is that this was important to have all of these for a time. And then as time went on, some of them didn't have to be maintained, like commercial capture ended up stop being a full-on group, whereas the fiscal department and marketing remained as these small working groups. But commercial capture now is just like one person does some commercial capture when they have time, because we don't need it to be so like constant anymore. How to do this yourself. What's really important here is a clear definition of roles, right? Like when we made this type of thing, what was really important was to recognize that all of these things are stuff that's being done. Or if it's not being done, it's a problem. But like step one is like put on a board, like what are the things that we need to accomplish? What are the roles that need to exist in order to effectively do what we want to do? And then we put names in there. Like start with jobs and then add people to the jobs, not start with people. Because if you do it with people, you end up with, well, Juan's just gonna do all the marketing, or Paul's gonna do all the commercial capture. And that's not healthy long-term. And even if we believe in cooperative values, it's really easy to sort of make it so that one person has a power dynamic that even maybe they didn't want in the cooperative. Rotating positions of authority. This is really hard. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
I just
Helen?
wanted to ask if in this system you still like took care of preferences and skills that people had, or was it kind of the aim to make everybody feel confident in every role?
So it's no. So there were definitely people that were like very clearly there were back-end people and front-end people. We found that very fast. That's part of why we ended up doing this. Like it represented and sort of normalized what we saw happening just sort of naturally, was that some people really wanted to sort of be alone with their Excels in the office for their administrative work, and other people wanted to be out on the street and talking to people. And it seemed to span over multiple like activities. And so it happened kind of naturally. We ended up finding that it was the hardest thing for people to do was the coordination role, actually. And so basically the short answer is we had a lot of people in the group when we were doing this for like all the departments. We had just enough people in the cooperative. I mean, between full members and sort of workers that have been around for a while, let's say, we had like 25 people. And so since each role might only be a couple hours a week, right? Like the back end marketing was like 4 hours a week. And so it was really easy for one of the people to take that on, even if they were doing other stuff. And it sort of formed naturally. Does that kind of answer? Yeah. So I was going to go into sort of the downsides of it as well, which is that's about one of the downsides has been that it's kind of gotten the rotating. It hasn't rotated as much as we hoped originally. When we all came up with this dynamic, it's been harder to end up rotating the positions than we'd hoped it would be. CoopCycle. It looks like I think you guys also wanted to ask a question. Nope. Okay. Oops. Right. So, regular spaces to check in to avoid creating unhealthy dynamics. So, we really found that like the weekly meetings were super important. Like, I can't. If there's anything I recommend people, it's having specific regular meetings. It sounds like so fucking boring. I know. It sounds like the dumbest advice. But like at the beginning, when you're 2 friends or 3 friends or 5 friends, it's really easy for things to just kind of like work. But then new people come in and things happen and maybe they don't know how to express. But just like having a weekly meeting where you deal with marketing and it's at 9 a.m. and you all get there and you sit down and you're like, what are the things that we need to talk about this week? Like, it sounds so boring, I know, but like, it was really important to avoid weird emotional crises. Like, just when everyone's working, like, it's like we work in the street, right? And a lot of people, we work by sending each other WhatsApps and whatever. We don't see each other in person necessarily all the time. And so, like, it's really easy for there to be misunderstandings or just like different ways of working, not sort of fusing together well. And just having a meeting once a week to go over what the work is, check if you did what you did. Like last week you had a meeting and you said you're going to do these 5 things. Did you do them? No. Okay, that's fine. But like, you should know it. You should be aware. What are we doing this week? Hey, you didn't do that thing I wanted you to do. Like, just talk things out. A technical tool to visualize progress. The whole Odoo thing was really important. We also sort of slowed down marketing for a while to be able to focus on something else. This is part of what's interesting is that we were doing marketing and we were probably spending, I don't know, 45 hours a month on it total. But we were doing 2 long form, by which I mean like 2 to 3 minute videos and 3 stories and 1 post a week for 6 months, which is like intense. That's like a lot of content, right? And we do with 4 people, and like 45 hours of work a month. Not that, it's like a pretty low budget for that type of marketing. Like it went between 45 and a little bit more than that, but not that much more. And it was one of the reasons why we're able to go so effectively was, if you look at this, it just had, these are all of the different week, like for each week we had one, this is a post about the Basque language classes that we're doing. This is a food delivery focused story based on this one restaurant. This is like at the planning meeting, we said, okay, we want 3 stories, 1 post, and every 2 weeks a longer video. And we made all these cards, put them all down, made a description of each one when it's at the brainstorming meeting per month, what each one is going to be. We brainstorm the concept, and then great, okay, then we need this photo, these videos, boom, and it was very effective and very efficient to do it. Then we slowed it down because we decided to intentionally try to get a new type of work. We decided that we wanted to try to get a government contract to teach children not to get hit by cars. It's a thing that they do where they pay someone to give like classes on road safety in public schools. And it was a lot of work to ask for that project, and we did get it. But we were like, we need to like free up capacity to be able to do this. So we did less marketing for like 3 months. And now that we've finished getting the new contract and that's up and running, now we're gonna restart implementing this coordinated group in an effective way. So like by having these different working groups that come to a monthly meeting and say how that's going, we analyze, was it going well? Did it go badly? Is it too many hours, too little hours? What are we doing in the next 3 months? What's going to be a lot of work? Do we need to stop doing something else temporarily? Just really thinking strategically about like, we have this many people, we have this many hours, we have this much ability to do stuff. Where do we want to invest it? And putting it in an actual system like makes it a lot clearer and more effective. Which really is pretty much the same thing as clear goals and timelines. It's the second one. I always say like, it's perfectly fine if you don't achieve the goals and the timelines. That's totally normal, totally fine. But you have to know that you didn't. It has to be something that you present in the assembly. People go over, well, why did it not get achieved? Is it because we weren't able to? Is it because we were lazy? Is it because we don't really like doing it? Whatever. But leaving things half finished and then not talking about it is never a good plan. You want at the very least talk about it afterwards. One thing I would say about this is that I've seen a lot of other projects as well go through this sort of like growth space, and it's a very hard thing to do. Like there's a number of collectives I've seen in Switzerland that are like between 60 and 150 people. And it was really clear that these types of working groups with clear responsibilities were also the way that they had found to work collectively. And it was sort of complicated and messy in practice, as everything always is. But it's the most democratic way of doing coordinated work as a collective, where like not everyone can do the marketing. You need to, that would be bad, right? And also to explain a little more about, also I guess you're sure where you're going with Helen. One of the things we ended up doing at the beginning, we literally had like a person here, a person here, and a person here. And as time went on, we ended up turning some of the people into like the whole collective. So for example, with commercial capture, one thing we did do for a time was the back-end people had done enough work making like flyers and prices and stuff, that we did like a training to all the messengers on how to approach, like what does the first conversation look like for this type of client. We were trying to get one specific type of client, and everyone, when they had free time, could just go talk to, we had a list, we had that customer relationship management Excel, and anyone had some free time, they could just pick one off the list and go there, and they had the flyers, they had the speech, they had everything, and they could just do that. And it all got funneled back into the coordinator and the back end person. And that was pretty effective. And that's why the definition of responsibilities is really important, right? Like this person is not responsible for first contact. They're responsible for follow through. Great. Okay. So then this can either be a person whose role is to do first contact and pass it off, or we can like automate it by giving everyone flyers, a training, and a speech and go out the door. And that's something that we would like to continue doing, because we felt like it removed some of the sorry, I need some water. Some of the dangers about cementing in roles and responsibilities on people and then not being able to change it to someone else. We felt like the more that we could sort of facilitate or automate roles between everyone, the easier it was to sort of mix and match who was doing what, or have everyone participate. What do people think about? Does this look like something people are already doing at all, or is everyone still just like, I do marketing and then marketing is me and end of story? Does anyone have like working groups at all? Or is it just like this person does marketing, that person does commercial? Yeah, go ahead, Ellen.
Yeah, well, we have working groups, but I think the problem is we don't assign specific tasks. So yeah, a lot of people feel responsible, but nobody really does this coordination role. And then in the end, not a lot of stuff gets done. So everybody's very motivated, but we don't have a proper protocol to follow, and then it just gets lost.
So do you have like what's an example of a working group where that's happening?
Well, for example, we have a working group for social media, but since we don't have a coordinating role, there are like 4 people in it. And if by chance one of us has the time and the capacity and an idea to do something, then this person does something, maybe also with the help of the others. But if nobody like focuses on it for a while, then nothing happens. No.
Do you have any system to track the stuff you want to do?
No.
Were you in the marketing class that Juan gave?
No, I wasn't. And I like that's what I'm at. It relates again to the thing I said before in the beginning, when there were just like 4 or 5 people in the collective. There was one person who was very motivated and also very skilled with social media, and she did a lot of it. And she's still inside the group, but her priorities have changed. So now we have to find a new system to make her workflow applicable to more people that are not just her.
So that's a great example of the problem. Like that's exactly what happened with us. We had a person named Juan who gave the marketing class and he just did all the marketing because he was very excited about it at the beginning. And then he didn't want to be the only person doing marketing. Like, well, what do we do? The first step was to decide, like, well, how do we do that? Thing number one was having a brand book, which is just like a system for commercial capture. This means everyone has the same flyer and the same prices and the same speech. For invoicing, it means that we send out all the invoices with the same email content or something, right? Like you need to have sort of standards for how things are presented. In marketing, that's a brand book. Here's the fonts we use. Here's the color schemes we use. Here's the way that we put things on posts to show their Eraman. Here were examples of that in real life. And flyers, posters, and cards, all with the same fonts, the same colors, the same typography. And then we, as a collective, sat down and said, like, well, if we were doing this well, what would it look like? And we made just like, what is the minimum marketing that we should be doing? And it was a weekly post, day-to-day stories that happen on a regular basis, boosters that are we want things that would sort of things that are on offer. We have 2-for-1 hamburgers or whatever, sort of like extra stuff. Specific types of posts for new clients that we get for either local commerce or for restaurants. So these are the 5 types of things that we would do, and this was the way. Well, what is that, right? So a weekly post is going to be stock photos with a preset. So it's going to be like one of these. And deal with core issues of the cooperative, its values, its commitments, its services, but like who are we on a brand level, values. Day-to-day stories, video in vertical that are static with characteristic movements of each activity. So like very literally it was like take shots of people moving a box or rolling up the bag or like the actions that take place through delivery. And show the clients we work with. For booster stories, it was what are the customers and what's the offer we're promoting, a link to facilitate those orders for that offer, and do them as needed was the last bit there. For new clients, we always had a carousel format with a minimum of 3 photos, which had like a similar format for each photo, and mentioned specifically the shared values that we have with that client. I don't know if we have it here. Yeah, so what we don't have here is that turned into, so like the time when that 6-month period we were doing a lot of content, we specifically said we want 1 of these per week, the weekly posts. We want 3 of these per week, unless we have a booster or a new client, in which case that will substitute 1 of the stories. And so then we made, like here, this is the calendar of all those activities. So they're all, if the S46 in Spanish week is semana, so week 46, and so for each week that we had 3 posts and 3 stories and 1 post. I always get posts and stories mixed up. And the reason why I say that is that if you combine that with a weekly meeting, it gets a lot easier to not have that everyone's responsible but nothing happens dynamic. You have to end up paying people's hours to do it usually. But you just open this and you're like, great, well, what do we have to do for the next week's posts? And it really brings the conversation down to like very concrete actions that need to be taken in the next days. So if you have motivated people that work together well and don't have like problems with each other, maybe you don't super need a coordinator, and just having this type of a like agreed on minimum expectation for the coming weeks. Yeah. Go for it.
Sorry, I didn't want to say anything. I wanted to give us thumbs up. Just misclicked.
Cool. Yeah. We suggest Odoo or Notion for this type of stuff. Really depends on what people are most comfortable with. But like even a physical calendar can be like a piece of paper on the wall with the things that we're going to do. It's totally fine. In the end, everything is a Kanban. I think that's more or less where I was going to end. Anyone else have any thoughts about how they organize, how they have working groups, how they might try to organize their strategy and plan going forward? Go for it.
Yeah, for us, like we had all this tech tools to manage everything, and at the end, the thing we see is like it's difficult to use because we don't go on the phone and use the tech tools. So we have a big Trello, but not using it. We have a big Slack, but not using it. And then at the end, we are like going back to the old style, but we don't know yet if it will work. But it's like very, very complicated to get like to force us to use it. Also because we are only 3, so it's sometimes easier to discuss like this. But at the same time, we see that we don't delegate too much, and so as we don't delegate, everything becomes a decision, and it takes too much time to make decisions, which is not very good also. So we are trying to, I don't know how to force us to use these tools and to like be in it. But at the end, we will hope that it will work. But if tools or tips, not tools, tips, because tools, too many tools.
With only 3 people, I'm not sure how needed the tool is, honestly. I think the weekly meeting thing might be more important. I'm guessing you guys might be in what I call the constant assembly, which is the way a cooperative is supposed to work. And I mean that like once it's large and stable and stuff, you know, just sort of a standard process is the assembly is the place where you make decisions. Like, what are we going to try to do? Like, we're going to try to do marketing focused on food delivery this month instead of local commerce. broad goal, like that's the decision that we're making. And then the working group executes that decision. So like we have basically 3 types of activities in my cooperative. One is the assembly, where decisions are made. Coordination meetings, which are where the plan for executing the decision is made and followed up on. And then what we would call operations, which is like just doing the stuff, right? But and it's really important to separate out those 3 things, because otherwise you end up going in circles. It's really important that assemblies start in the end, and then you coordinate later. Or like, and we're not going to re-debate this issue until 3 months from now when it's on the agenda for that other assembly. We're like, until now, between now and then, we're just going to execute what we all decide on in the assembly, even though you don't agree with it. And at the end of this trial, at this time frame, of another assembly where you get to be like, this was stupid. And if it didn't work, we'll be like, shit, you were right. Sorry, let's try something else next time. Or we keep going because it was successful and you agree. But if you are constantly deciding at the same time that you're executing, at the same time that you're operationally doing stuff, no one ever really decides completely. And that's what I've seen be really dangerous with small groups of 3 people. And like, I don't think that Trello solves that exactly, right? It just ends up being a giant to-do list that you're ignoring, and it makes you feel bad, right? Because honestly, like the deal where you're 3 people and you all know your jobs, and if you have made a decision and you're all just going to execute it, by far the most efficient way to organize work. Like the reason why businesses that are large have like 5 layers of management, they're actually really inefficient. It's super inefficient to have middle management. Like it's extremely expensive, wastes a bunch of time. It's all a bunch of dumb fucking meetings. It's the worst. But it exists because that's the only way for them to execute stuff with a large group of people, and most of them are employees that don't actually care and just want a salary and they're getting underpaid. If you're 3, 4, 5 motivated people that believe in the project and get along well, like decide a thing, go for it, and like make it happen. And that's way more efficient than anyone else will have. It's like a resource. You have like a year of that resource. Use it wisely. And then you'll need this stuff, the tools, when you have 10 people or whatever.
Yeah, one of the things I totally agree, and that's how the things were made for the moment. Like at some point we need to keep on that decision that we take, and then somebody take care of all the operational stuff, and at the end we have something. That's how we, like, the only thing we did in this place are made like this, and not like our way of trying to decide and do at the same time. But the problem we have, but maybe like it's normal. We have 2 activities. We are like 3, but not on the same time schedule, and so it's also kind of, well, like we were trying to find 30 minutes together without any clients, and this is very difficult because like the time schedule is not planned from one week to the other, and then there is a shop. So when the shop is open, it's almost impossible to be like completely out of the client for 30 minutes straight. And so it's like quite complicated, but I think we will like hope it will. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Our cooperative has assembly meetings once a month at 4:30 p.m. on Sundays, because that's the day and time that everyone can be together, and it kind of sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, Antoine was making for like a joke. We can do Sunday midday. I was like, maybe not, but maybe it will be yes. I don't know. Yeah, find like outside of the opening hours, and like even if the opening hours are quite large, so we need it.
Yeah,
it's impossible otherwise.
Yep, definitely. There's no easy solution to that one. It's just about making the time. Anyone else have comments, thoughts, things? Nope. Alrighty. Well, then I think we're finished for the day. Almost at 2 hours, so not bad. Thank you all for coming. And I'm not totally sure what other classes are coming up next, but I'm sure we'll talk soon. Cool. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to ask, last lessons, you talked about us about Excel file, and I
Yes.
don't know where I can find, maybe if you had the time to do it. I don't know exactly, but like there is a lot of resources like the slides, and I don't know exactly where I can find everything.
So the way it worked last year was that we made a Google Drive folder for everyone and then gave them access to it and had copies of the slides and the Excels. And I did say in my last class that I'd make sure you all got the Excel, and then I did not do that. So I accept my responsibility for that. However, Albion is the one who's generally organizing that type of stuff for the Erasmus Plus classes. So I'm going to ask him what has been the strategy so far, and I will. So maybe it's just posting it on the Slack channel, just like here's a link to all the documents or something. But like, let me ask Albion what the best way to share everything with everyone is, and then I'll make sure you guys have this stuff.
Maybe it's has been said and I didn't catch the info. So maybe.
I don't think so. I think it's good you brought it up. All right. Great. Any other last questions? All right. Thank you all very much. Bye.
Thank you, Paul.